1, 2, 3, 4, just another day at my dead-end profession. I've lived day to day, yeah, listening to some good old country records on the radio, and yeah, what else can I say?
Welcome to the San Diego Lottery! And now your MC for the evening, he's host of the Degenerates podcast. You see him on Hulu. Please put your hands together for the comedian the Huffington Post called one of the best comedians in San Diego, Mr. Ryan George!
Is this all the lights we can get this motherfucker? Are you serious? Is there a fucking speakeasy in here? Let me sit down here. How's everyone doing? Alright! Welcome to the very first San Diego Flat Earth Debate! Honestly, I think this is the most people I've ever seen in this fucking club. That's awesome. That includes all the bands, all the comedy shows I've ever seen over here. First of all, I want to gauge the audience. How many flat earthers we have here tonight? Alright, well,
Where's the guy representing?
you might have your mind changed. How many spherical earth people do we have here tonight? You also might have your mind changed. Who knows? I don't. Anyway. So I have to keep this very neutral. I am not the judge of this. I am a referee. So one thing I want to make clear tonight is this is all about fun. I don't want anyone to be upset. Keep in mind, me and these people are actually changing the shape of the earth with their words. So every time you're like, no, God damn it, they're not doing anything. The shape of the world when you walked in was the same as when you walked out. So that's good news. So please, let's keep this about fun. Are you guys ready? I'm going to bring out your first debater. This gentleman is a UC Berkeley trained scientist and archaeologist. He's a prolific podcaster. Please welcome Robert Timothy! Robert, real quick, is going to introduce a little bit how this event came together. Robert, take it away.
Alright guys. Oh, I didn't get to see it. I was back there. Did we have any flat earth people? I don't want to call you out if you were. Yeah! Alright, it's with you. Good, good. I want you to feel welcome here. I want everybody to feel good and happy about what's going on here. We're just going to discuss ideas. Like Ryan said, we're not expecting anything big to change. In fact, I'm not even necessarily expecting that I'm going to change Daniel's mind. That would be foolish of me. All we're out here to do is talk about ideas and discuss whether or not they're good or bad. Now, I have a background not only in archaeology, but in science education, and there's this idea in science education that you don't debate creationists. You don't debate things like the flat earth, because by debating them, they give legitimacy. And to some extent, I agree with that, and to some extent, that's true. So, I wasn't necessarily the one who was super keen on doing this when it all started. However, it did get put in my lap thanks to Mr. Richie Estrada. Everybody please give it up for Richie Estrada. Richie decided to put this debate on my shoulders because he fucking hates me. But this all stemmed from something that I couldn't actually disagree with him on because another comedian, Dan Pablos, had put a post up. So if people think the Earth is flat, then are all the other planets flat, or is the Earth just better than the rest? So it is. Shout out to you, Dan, and Sioux Falls.
You know, it's a funny enough post, and Daniel, who feels very strongly about this particular thing, started commenting on this post. And he commented a lot. In fact, on this one post, before I got involved, he commented 40 times. And so at some point, I feel like there is a responsibility to come out and make logical debates and logical reasoned arguments about what's being said. And I think if, as the science community, we sit back and say, we're not going to touch this, this is beyond us, whatever, we're going to get stuck with a bunch of people telling one side of the story and nobody telling the other side. And for those of you who think that nothing happens when that goes on, this is another part of that same thread, in which apparently Daniel is starting to convince some people on the fence. I won't read the whole text for you, but in that sense, I think it is responsible to come out here and actually talk to him. Now, Daniel's a really nice guy. I've gotten to know him over the past few weeks, talking back and forth. I've gotten to know him in person, talking today. He's a very nice guy. I want you guys to treat him really well. But at that same time, I also don't believe in the same things he believes in. And I think that it's important that reality gets discussed and analyzed. And I think it's important that when somebody puts a new idea forward, somebody else comes out and tests it. That's the idea behind science. And the second we abandon that because we think we're better than it, is the second we stop doing real science. So, thank you. So that started what became a month-long journey for me into Flatland, where I got to check out all the different debates on the flat earth side. And for those of you who think that they are vapid and shallow, let me tell you, there is an entire culture in this. There is a vast culture. It's like getting into Game of Thrones, the books. You get taken down, like you have to understand, okay, dragons exist here, so how does the world work now? All right, now we can do this. That in mind, I don't want to be dismissive of him and just say, it's not even worth talking about. So we're going to get really deep into these ideas. Thank you guys so much for coming on out. And after Mr. Shores takes over for a second, I'd like you guys to please give a very warm welcome to Dan.
Are you ready for your second debater? It's time! Yes, gentlemen! Now, keep in mind, I gave you some praise about Bobby. I wanted you to know that this man is just legitimate. He has told me that self-education is the only possible form of education. That being said, he is a self-taught anthropologist, natural scientist, and the Pope of the Church of the SubGenius, Mr. Daniel Falkenbach, everybody! Let's get it on!
All right, guys, I want to start out. Daniel, if you want to adjust your mic and get nice and comfy over there. I'm going to start out with just reviewing kind of what we know as a standard heliocentric model of our solar system. So, let's bring this up right here. And we, of course, have our nice big sun in the middle. We have our 8, not 9, planets running around the outside. We have Earth there, number 3, which is, of course, a round, rocky planet that is circling this giant nuclear fusion explosion, turning hydrogen into helium, and at the same point, releasing an immense amount of energy that gets brought onto us as sunlight. We are rotating constantly under the pull of gravity, and at some point, that star is most likely going to expand to a giant red giant, getting bigger and bigger in circumference until it envelops us, probably long after the human race is gone. I'm more of a moon fan myself, but I appreciate what you have to say. Is everybody pretty solid on the concept of the solar system as we currently understand it according to modern science?
No, they're not.
Okay,
Nope.
Great.
That's why we're here, folks.
Exactly. And because of that, I wanted to just hit that briefly while we go over Daniel's model of what this solar system looks like, because I actually think this is what most of us are less familiar with. So, Daniel, if you could go ahead, please take it away.
No, actually, you're less familiar with your own model. I was supposed to have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm just going to go into this blindfolded. He's going to use his presentation, and you can all see his pretty pictures. I'm just going to go. I get made fun of for using memes. Memes that are visual aids, or the smallest unit of that you fit on a piece of paper, or a little image that you can. So in the flat Earth community, these people get made fun of for using visual aids and graphs and videos. My videos and memes and visual aids are wrong, and his memes and visual aids are all correct. So I'm not going to use any memes at all. I'm just going to use my knowledge and of what I actually know. I'm not going to talk bullshit and try to trick you people. I'm just going to simply be honest with you, have fun, try to learn. You obviously, you're going to start with where's the edge. The edge is protected by the Antarctic Treaty. The Antarctic Treaty was made in 1959, and that was after Admiral Byrd, the year after he died. This is 2017. You guys can Google these things after the show or whatever. So we have this Antarctic Treaty that's surrounding the. Well, hold on. So we have the magnetic North Pole, and that's where all compasses point. All compasses point at the North Pole. They don't point at the South Pole. They point at the North Pole. So the North Pole is the magnetic, that's the true center of the Earth, which is what geocentrism means. See, geocentrism isn't the same thing as flat Earth. You hear flat Earth, you start freaking out. Geocentrism is, the Earth is the center, the Earth center. So it's not the same thing as flat Earth. It's flat, it's round, it's hollow, it's spherical. It's infinite. It's all these things. It's not just. I'm also not a creationist. I also don't believe in that the 9/11 story is real. So Robert, he told me he told me he did in the beginning of our conversation. So that's what we're dealing with here. We have globe, flat. And that's good. That's good. This is what we want. We want to know the differences between this crap. He believes that terrorists with box cutters destroy the towers. I don't. That's where we have to have common ground. That's the difference. Now, if you believe that people like this goes so deep in the people who created the globe, about 500 years ago. They're the people that knocked down the goddamn buildings. So we have to break down the psychology, not be scared of
Daniel, I have to interrupt you.
Please do.
I'm going to need you to keep this on the Earth, not 9/11.
Okay, good. Well,
that's my job. I'm not trying to interrupt you.
All right.
Let's go back to the ice wall.
Okay, so you have the North Pole, which is the true center of the Earth, and then all the continents are surrounding the North Pole. Every direction other than north is south. So there's a 360-degree ice wall that we're contained in. And that's what the Antarctic Treaty is guarding. That's why people like Yar Landahoy will go there and independently explore, and he'll be told to turn around by the International Navy, Air Force that are. It's not like these people are guarding the Antarctica. It's not like they're guarding this. Let me go back to the model. So the sun and the moon are circuiting over and around the flat Earth. It's a flat plane.
I'm sorry, Daniel, would this be an accurate representation of what you're talking
there
about?
We go. Yeah, so that yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn. The orange line is the Tropic of Cancer. And then the red line is the equator. That obviously is the North Pole. The North Pole, that's the center of the Earth, and that's the ice wall that we're surrounded by. Let's see here. So the seasons, I'll explain the seasons real quick so you understand the seasons. In the wintertime, the sun moves down here. It moves down here, and that's the Tropic of Capricorn. And that's why it's wintertime where we are here. And then slowly it goes in a circuit. It goes in a circuit, and it's the story of the tortoise and the hare. So the tortoise is the moon, and the sun is the tortoise. And also the sun isn't 93 million miles away. The moon isn't 238,000 miles away. They're also not as big as they say they are. The sun is not 400 times larger. The sun and the moon are the exact same size. That's why when they eclipse one another, they look like the exact same size.
Daniel, in this model, what are other planets like Venus and Mars? What are those that we can see with telescopes?
Well, those are just like the sun and the moon. Those are luminaries.
And what's a luminary?
A luminary is a light source.
Okay.
Wandering. So the sun and the moon are luminaries, and they have actually opposite powers, opposite forces. And the sun, obviously, we know what the sun does, but the moon, you can test it in experiments. The moon's shadow is less, or the moon's light is colder than its shadow.
Wouldn't this room be a lot colder if that was true?
Oh God, I wish, man. But you can. There's experiments that you can test. You can use a temperature gauge and test the moon's light. The moon's light is colder than the shadow, and so that means that the sun is not reflecting the moon's light. That means that they have their own power. See, they're trying to take away the feminine principle, and that's why it's a male-dominated society. I mean, actually, the male-dominated society is Helios, and we're in a heliocentric model, and Helios is a big god with his dick hanging out, and so when we all worship monuments and phalluses and obelisks, and that's what those all are. The Washington obelisk, all the Vatican obelisk. See, this ties in with religion, the military, education, science. This is the whole room is ball earthers. There's only like 3 or 5 flat earthers here. So I mean, I have nothing against globe ball earthers. I have nothing against the reason I'm here is to dispel some of the confusion. You can make fun of me, you can do whatever the hell you want, but I love science just as much as he loves science, except I'm a flat earth anti-comedian and also a flat earth scientist. He's a ball earth comedian and a ball earth scientist. See?
That is on my card. That's on my business card. Daniel, question. What is the dome made out of?
Well, that's a lot of flat earthers speculate about what the dome is made out of, whether it's physical substance or an invisible barrier. It's obviously, well, it has to be electromagnetic. That's how I think that the Earth is based. It's an electromagnetic flat Earth. It's a infinite plane of inertia, and it's. What was your question?
I was asking what the dome is made out of.
Well, so there's like pieces that fall from the dome supposedly in certain areas of the Earth, and there's like red chunks, so that could be ruby. Some people say there's green chunks fall, that's emerald. Some people say that blue chunks fall. So literally the dome could be made out of crystal material, but also, I don't believe that crap. I think it's made out of, I think it's like invisible. Actually, I think there's what, just like, I mean, there's, it kind of sucks that I have to say this, but there's waters below, and infinite waters below, and infinite waters above. There's honestly, the sky is blue probably because the space is made out of water.
Good point. But when you say there are infinite waters below, we know the bottom of the ocean, so that's not an infinite amount of water, right? We can go down to the deepest part, Mariana's Trench, and say, here's the deepest part of the ocean. So that's not infinite amount of water. It's a lot of water, but it's a finite amount.
We know less about the bottom of the ocean than we do outer space.
That's true, but we do know that it's not an infinite amount of water, correct?
Well, yeah. Also, just like we don't know if it's an infinite amount of space. Like, where's the edge of space?
Well, the edge of space is constantly expanding.
Yeah, so it's expanding here, so it makes sense in your mathematical equation here that you can't replicate on physical on the plane, and then it comes here. So it expands and then it crushes us. So it's gonna keep expanding forever, but then it's gonna come back to us and kill us. And we also don't know about these things because this is millions of years in the future, and we're speculating. We have no idea.
So if we're here on this flat Earth, the oceans are obviously not falling off this flat Earth. Is there a wall? Is there something at the edge that keeps them in?
It's the Antarctic Treaty that keeps us in. We can't.
What keeps the water in?
Well, it's obviously there's pictures of the ice wall.
There's an ice wall.
Yeah, there's a 200 to 1,000 foot ice wall that's surrounding us, and that's the Antarctic shelves. You can just go look it up. It's very simple. It's 2017, people. You have phones in your pocket. Please.
So the stars and the sun and the planets, these are what you call luminaries. These are just lights moving through this dome?
Well, those are luminaries. The sun and the moon are obviously the most. It's the yin-yang symbol. The Chinese had the model correctly. If you look at the yin-yang symbol, it's literally the sun and the moon spiraling around one another, and that's why we go, oh, those damn Chinese are so stupid. Those Chinese astronomers.
I don't know I've ever heard anyone say that.
Those damn Chinese astronomers don't know what the hell they're talking about. They think the world's flat. Oh, by the way, every single culture that ever existed in the history of the Earth thought the Earth was flat until recently. Until NASA took pictures of a ball that you can't see from your own vantage point.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because when I was going into this flat Earth debate and doing the research, I actually had that kind of assumption myself too, that ancient cultures thought the Earth was flat, but in reality they didn't. In fact, a long time ago they figured out not only was the Earth spherical, but they were able to actually calculate how big the Earth was. There's a famous Greek experiment looking at the shadows that are cast differently based on your north and south positioning, and measuring when the shadows go directly down a deep well, and therefore the sun is directly overhead, and then when the sun casts a shadow. And with that information alone, they were able to calculate the circumference of the Earth rather accurately. Now, almost all these seafaring cultures knew, or at least assumed, that the world was spherical in one way or another. And the reason was very simple. When they would watch something go out to sea, they would see the boat disappear bottom first. And the last thing you see is the crow's nest, the last part of the top of the ship going out. So in fact, when we have this idea that ancient cultures thought the world was flat, they really didn't. Mayans calculated their calendar based on a spherical Earth. The Greeks calculated their navigation based on a spherical Earth. Navigation going back literally 2,000 years goes back to a spherical Earth. A sextant uses a spherical Earth. And in fact, the flat Earth idea didn't really come around into the mainstream until the 1800s, where it was brought up because of biblical literalism, because there are parts of the Bible that talk about the four corners of a plane Earth, and because of that, the idea of a flat Earth became much more common in the 1800s. So when we think of this as people back then thought this way, they really didn't, and we have a lot of evidence to support that they didn't think that way.
I'm glad you said that, because everyone here is gonna. Why did this turn down? So you turned that down, didn't you? Everyone here is gonna go look that.
Turn it off.
Everyone here is gonna go look up what you just said, and they're gonna know that you're wrong, because.
I advise you to look it up.
The Mayans, what he just said, the Incas, the Norse, Chinese, Hindu, the only thing that you assume is that you fit a lot of stuff in there. You were talking about Aristophanes' stick experiment. He puts two sticks in the ground and he back in. What was that, like a zero?
Before, yes.
Somewhere around there. He puts two sticks in the ground in zero before there was plumbing or they knew about anything. And he measured the light, and he measured the light between the two shadows, and he found out that the Earth is spherical, obviously. Because he put the one stick at Alexandria, and he put the other stick at Cyan. And so, but here's the thing about that, though, Robert. What about the he didn't account for the refraction.
What refraction would that be?
Well, the sun's refraction. He didn't. His own equation doesn't have that. So
the sun's refraction of what? So refraction is
the light. The light is going to be bouncing off the atmosphere. It's going to be refracting back to those shadows. Uh-huh. So he's using refracting light to measure shadows. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it is an interesting point you're making. Let me ask you this. In your model, are the continents and the oceans the same size as we currently believe them to be?
What was that?
Are the continents and the oceans the same size as we currently believe them to be?
No, all of the globe Earth maps are completely wrong. That's easily, you can look at.
So if the continents aren't the same size, we would know that automatically.
I could say all of there's not even like any truly accurate flat Earth maps. I'm not going to sit there's no that is, you don't walk around with a globe to go, oh, where am I going today, honey? I'm going to spin around a globe and figure out where I'm going. The GPS is ground ground. It's not global. If you look up the original global positioning system, you look up what it originally was, it was ground, which is triangulation. Triangulation is what the military uses. The military invented triangulation. Triangulation is when you have a base station here, a base station here, and a base station here, creating a triangle. And they pick up on that person with the signal. Well, that can only happen on a flat Earth.
No, that actually happens like this with satellites pointing down.
Oh, it happens on a nice little chart here that you can't replicate in real life.
We can. We do it literally every day when we use our GPS.
Like I just said, it's ground position.
But if you were right and it was a ground position, one, you'd always have to have line of sight to those specific things, and we are plenty of times we're out of line of sight of any kind of repeater. But furthermore, even if you had repeaters everywhere, covering every square inch of the globe, if you had them allowing you to triangulate your place everywhere, they still wouldn't work on the ground because they'd never be able to tell you your altitude. So, you talked about those three things. When you're in space, those are all coming down and triangulating you. You can tell what your altitude is. If you have three on the ground, how does it know if you're 100 feet above those three or 100 feet below them? What calculation would allow them to decide that?
Well, we're talking about satellites now, so that's an interesting subject for the...
But how would your ground issue work for altitude?
Well, that would be a low orbit satellite there. That would be.
So there are satellites.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You think I'm that fucking daft? Please. See,
so there's satellites, they just don't use them for GPS.
Did you guys see the new story that just came out this week about the satellite that was crashed in Brazil and that was carried by a balloon? Did you guys see that one? Go look that one up. So these Brazilians, they see a satellite that was held up by a balloon. And it crashed. I thought the satellites were floating up there freely with their little thruster technology.
But then how would you explain...
How many satellites are up in space, Robert?
Millions, probably, by now. At least tens of thousands.
Millions, huh? Well, that's more than...
I mean, if you're talking about artificial ones, tens of thousands, easily.
So why can't one of these satellites take a picture of the buildings on the bottom of the Earth hanging upside down?
They don't hang upside down.
Wait, they don't?
They don't hang upside down any more than we do here.
Wait a minute. So these buildings there's buildings going up here.
Right, go ahead and take that with you.
There's buildings up here, and there's buildings down here. There's people in buildings, and also helicopters and airplanes.
Yes,
and
they're all attracted by gravity towards the center of the
weather
Earth.
balloons. They're all flying upside down.
No, they're flying right side up relative to themselves. They're all being attracted by gravity to the center of the Earth.
Well, that's not what you just said. What are you talking about, dude? You just totally.
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. So there's gravity.
So buildings aren't hanging. What's going on in your model then? Where are they? Where are they?
They're on the surface of the Earth. Pick any place on Earth. San Diego is the same as Lebanon, is the same as Nigeria. All of these places have gravity pulling them towards the ground.
I'm confused.
Clearly.
In the heliocentric model, the buildings in the northern hemisphere are pointing up, and the buildings in the southern hemisphere are pointing down because there's people hanging upside down.
So I think
what?
You might have been confused with what up and down means.
You're talking about relativity, that it doesn't exist because up is down and down is up, and east is west and west is east. And
well, what is your definition? I mean, what's your definition of up? My
definition of up is up. Up, down.
And if you were to do that in Australia, it would be exactly the same.
No such thing as relativity. No such thing as relativity.
Well, that's not relativity, by the way. But regardless,
what is relativity, Robert?
Relativity is the equation that determines the equal energy to mass. So E equals mc squared determines exactly how much energy is contained within mass, and the equation between the two, because technically on the smallest levels, mass and energy are the same thing.
Wow, that really explained the spherical model there.
No, it has nothing to do with it, like I said before.
So, yeah, relativity is garbage, Big Bang, garbage, evolution, garbage, creationism, garbage, dark matter, garbage, dark energy, garbage, all theories. All theories that globalists cannot prove. Robert can't prove a single one of these theories that I just said. They're all theories. By the way, the spherical Earth is a theory. That's a theory.
Put bookmark and can't prove it. Back to your idea, Daniel.
See, we can prove this thing. That's the only thing that we can prove. Well, they say that the only thing that's certain is death, taxes, and now they talk about gravity. The death, taxes, and gravity are the only things certain.
So Daniel, without
gravity, hoax, doesn't exist, theory, can't be proven. Einstein was proven wrong to be a stupid, slandering, skeezy, fucking stealer fraud. I'm not shitting on Einstein or saying I'm smarter than Einstein. No, it's just fucking, these people have been proven wrong. I like Nikola Tesla. You guys like that guy?
So let's talk about what is pulling you to the Earth right now if it's not gravity.
My density and my weight.
But Daniel, weight is determined by gravity.
No, it isn't. Of
course it is.
No, that's what you think it does. See, gravity doesn't exist in my world.
Well, don't drop your iPhone then, because you're going to be really surprised. But
junk?
No. But
here's the thing. Here, tell me to jump off a cliff. Jump off a cliff. That'll prove gravity. So here's the thing. When I do jump off a cliff, it's going to be into water. And when I jump into the water, luckily I'm going to dive right into it because I'm less dense than the water. So the reason I'm standing on the mountain is because the mountain is more dense than me. Thus, I can't go through this medium. But as soon as I jump off the cliff and into the water, my density, or the water's density, is less than me. Thus, I can go into it safely. Also, Robert, why does a balloon go up?
Because it has helium in it.
Okay, well, go further.
Helium is lighter than the air around it.
You mean less dense?
Yes, absolutely less dense.
Oh,
and
weird.
Gravity working on it.
No, we didn't need to. We did.
No,
you didn't.
Wait!
You just.
You're cross-talking. Daniel, go ahead.
Well, he just explained why a helium balloon went up without the use of gravity.
No, I didn't.
All right.
You're supporting my model.
Okay, well here's my question.
Now, Bobby.
Put a helium balloon in outer space. What happens to it?
I don't know.
It doesn't go up. It doesn't go anywhere. More importantly,
have you ever seen that before?
Sure.
You've seen a helium balloon go up in space?
Sure.
Where?
You look at any feed that you can see from the ISS, from any space shuttle.
So the ISS has balloons floating around it.
They certainly do experiments with helium, yes.
Well, they do experiments with helium, yes. They're the #1 purchasers of helium. They just purchased $53 million worth of helium because they need to float their satellites around.
So I'm going to get back to that, and I have a few questions about your floating satellite idea. But back to gravity. So gravity is a force that pulls down. Density is not a force.
Yes, it is.
How is density
the opposite of density? He's right. He's right there. The opposite of density is buoyancy. So
that's not the opposite.
Yes, it is. So you have dense. This is gravity. Gravity is simply density, buoyancy, and weight. The reason. Yeah, I already explained that. I drop my car keys, they fall, they hit the ground. My car keys are more dense than the air surrounding it. And they hit the ground, they land on the ground, they stay there.
So Daniel, let me ask you this. If your
buoyancy pushes up.
If your car keys are more dense than the air, why is it that they're falling down? What is causing them to fall down instead of up or to the side?
The car keys is density. It's dense.
Okay, so
it has a mass, a weight.
What's the direction? What's pulling it in that direction as opposed to the other directions?
What's its own weight? You let it go in the air. If you let it go and there's a table here, it would fall on the table.
Well, see, this is the equation for weight.
Oh,
if you notice, weight is mass times the gravitational pull. Without any gravitational pull, you don't have weight, which is why people float around in outer space.
Oh, boy.
Okay, fair enough. You believe that satellites are all carried by balloons?
Well, no. There's also military aircraft called jets that that's their whole mission. Isn't that that is a satellite? They fly around and they. Oh, there's also this thing called the undersea cables that all of our internet is. We don't need satellites. 99 or 97% of our phones and electronics, our Wi-Fi, our internet is run by undersea cables. Come on, guys, you know that.
Daniel, real quick about.
How do you think boats in the middle of the oceans work? Why don't I get reception on a mountain? Isn't there satellites up there?
Daniel, you know your cell phone does not get signal through satellites, right? You know GPS works through satellites and your phone's signal comes through ground radio.
No, it comes through the base triangulation, like I already explained.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Then how would you explain geosynchronous satellites that provide data? So data satellites...
I don't explain things that don't exist.
Well, then explain it to that guy. Because every DirecTV installer you've ever met uses geosynchronous satellites to be able to get your information, your television, your internet to your house.
That is proof that satellites exist, and the presents under your tree prove Santa exists.
So how does he get signal? How does this gentleman get the signal to your house?
Well, there you go.
Okay, triangulation. Weird answer. So this guy is pointing a satellite
They all point one direction, too.
You're right. They point to the geosynchronous satellite.
Was it 45 degrees, right?
Well, it depends. It depends which satellite that particular company is using.
They don't need to point up. See, they have to point 45 degrees, and the satellites, they have to be at a specific angle. The satellites can't just, make it transfer its data to the satellite. They have to be pointed a specific way. That doesn't make any fucking sense. If there's satellites floating up all the time, we should get signal 24/7. There should never be any interruptions ever. And how does this prove a globe Earth, dude? Jesus.
You see, Daniel, geosynchronous satellites have to go around the equator. So all of these satellite dishes have to be pointing south towards those geosynchronous satellites. So how would that work? Why would all those need to be pointing south?
Dude,
geosynchronous satellites?
That assumes that the satellites are orbiting around the Earth.
Right.
That doesn't exist.
So
he's trying to get me to explain things that don't exist. That's the trick of the globalist.
But that guy exists. That guy exists right there.
Dan, I want you to explain things that don't exist. So can we move on to things so we can teach these people more?
I'd like to stay
instead of staying on a topic that doesn't exist.
Okay, let me interject here. Okay, so Daniel, this guy is doing what? Bullshitting?
No, he's doing his job.
He's doing his job. Okay.
Just like people in the military who play on the satellites.
Well, now, please.
Missiles, ballistics.
Ballistics.
They go long range. They go 100 miles.
Right.
Rail guns. They go 100 miles.
Okay.
There would be 100 miles. That's 660. Of course, 660.
The devil's mark.
6,666 feet of missing curvature there would be, and 100 mile. See, if you shoot a projectile 100 miles, it has to compensate for the curve, just like snipers do. You know, snipers with the Coriolis effect, right?
Of course.
Coriolis.
Oh, okay, there, potato there, buddy.
I'm just interested in this. So if he points that
he's just interested in something that...
If he points this at a geosynchronous satellite, he gets a signal. The second it points away from the geosynchronous satellite, it loses the signal. How do you explain that?
Because satellites aren't 100% covering the Earth. That's why you don't get signal 24/7. I don't understand what you're not
He has to point
here.
that at a specific geosynchronous satellite going.
That doesn't exist, man.
So then how can when he moves that from that pointing at that geosynchronous satellite you don't believe exists, why is it that when he moves it away you lose that signal? Good answer. Fair enough.
Oh, that's cool. Good. Robert, I'm gonna go into this when I get home, and I'm gonna look that one up. But that's a huge blunder in the flat Earth model.
Oh yes, there is a blunder.
All right.
All right.
Okay, back to your model.
So now let me keep making a fool of the globe Earth model. There, you got one. You got one on me. Keep going there, Robert.
Okay, how do you explain?
One point, Robert.
Even though I already said it doesn't exist, and he just keeps going towards it because that's giving him an edge, and that's what globalists do. But keep going there, Rob.
How do you explain a lunar eclipse? What caused a lunar eclipse? Because in the heliocentric model, the Earth is getting in the way of the sun and thereby casting a shadow on the moon. Yeah. How does that work in the flat Earth model?
Also, that is impossible if the sun and the moon had been viewed in the same sky at the same time during a solar eclipse, which is completely impossible. Supposedly the moon is casting a shadow on the Earth.
But we're talking about a lunar eclipse here.
Huh?
So this is a lunar eclipse where the Earth is getting in between the sun and the moon and casting a shadow. How is that possible in a flat Earth model?
Well, like I said earlier, the torus and the here, the sun travels faster than the moon. Thus, the sun eventually will catch up with the moon. It's a flat, it's a disk, and they also travel a little bit up and a little bit down. So that means that they're allowed to travel over one another and bypass one another. So the sun and the moon are bypassing one another, and that's why they look like they do.
That would be a solar eclipse. We're talking about a lunar eclipse here, where the Earth is getting in between the sun and the moon. How is that possible on a flat Earth? So the sun, we see the shadow of the Earth cast over the moon. How would that be possible on a flat Earth model?
Well, that can't be possible on a flat Earth model, man. You're trying to explain stuff on a globe Earth model that doesn't translate to a flat Earth model. That's why we're here.
That's the point, though.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking your explanation. What is a lunar eclipse on a flat Earth?
I just explained.
No, you explained a solar eclipse. This is a lunar eclipse.
It's the same exact thing. The solar and lunar eclipse are the same exact thing, man.
I think you're confused as to what a lunar eclipse is.
The solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse are different in the heliocentric model. In the flat Earth model, they're the same exact thing.
Which one?
They pass over each other. That's why they look the same size.
Which one happens at night in your model?
It happens at night.
Huh?
Which one happens at night in your model? Because this happens at night, so how would that happen on the flat Earth?
Next question.
Okay, fair enough. All right, just a couple of clarifications. Are there tectonic plates on the flat Earth?
Another theory.
Are there?
No, that's this thing.
So what causes earthquakes, volcanoes, mountain ranges?
Okay, first off, how can you know that there's tectonic plates? Do you know how far that that people have dug in the crust?
About 8 miles.
About 8 miles, and they gave up. They gave up after 8 miles. So your globe theory that's made of caramel in the middle, molten caramel, is theory.
I believe that's iron.
You can't know. Yeah, iron that melted and that loses its magnetic properties. It makes a lot of sense. So magnets need iron substance to be magnetic, but the center of the Earth is made of liquid magma. So and if you heat up a magnet, if you knew anything about magnets, the magnet loses its properties. But the center of the Earth is liquid magma. That makes perfect sense.
Well, actually, the
You're
center.
juggalos, how do magnets work? You don't know.
The center of the Earth is an iron core. Magma is surrounding that, and then the plates would be on the outside of that. But
how do you know?
So, well, we do a lot of different things that let us know how those kind of models work, including measuring.
If we've only gone 8 miles deep, then how the fuck do you know?
Including measuring things like earthquakes. So, how do earthquakes work on the flat Earth?
The Earth moves. It shakes. The only time you can detect the Earth's movement is with a seismograph. That's why it goes like this. Earthquake, earthquake. If the Earth was moving in all these different directions, by the way, the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles per hour, and then the Earth itself is orbiting the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour,
right.
And then the Sun itself is orbiting the solar system at 500,000 miles per hour?
The Sun is the solar system, so it's not orbiting.
No, the Sun. We have multiple solar systems in this galaxy, Robert.
Right, but
we should have taught you that.
The Sun couldn't orbit the solar system.
So then the galaxy itself is hurling through the universe at 500 million miles per hour, and these are all different directions. So it's wobbling, spinning, tilting, spiraling, and we don't feel a single bit of this. It's all completely motionless. Oh, by the way, if you turned your car and someone was in it, they'd smash their fucking face against the side of the wall.
Yeah, but when you're in your car at 70 miles an hour, you're sitting there drinking your coffee, and you also don't notice any motion because you've consistently sped up and you're going at a steady speed.
Can you say that again?
Okay, have you been in an airplane? You've taken a flight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You came here from Buffalo. That flight, you were going 500 miles. You were going 500 miles.
Oh, no crosstalk.
You were going 500 miles an hour in that plane. Were you glued to your seat the entire time like this because you were going 500 miles an hour?
No.
Right, because you're feeling the acceleration, not the movement.
Well, no, because I'm inside of an airplane.
Right, and now... But you're inside of an airplane going 500 miles an hour. You don't think you would feel that? I mean, we're inside the atmosphere.
No, I'm contained in the airplane, so how
And the atmosphere!
How can I feel that, man?
Okay,
all right.
Let's move on. Let's move on. I have an interesting question.
Hold on.
No. I want to stay on the airplane subject for 10 extra minutes like you did earlier.
We can do that.
No, I don't.
Oh, no.
I'm just making fun of what he tried to do to me.
Comic relief. Now, let me ask you guys something. The audience has this one question. Hold it down. You mentioned that they quit at how many miles? 8 miles?
Yes.
You said, why in your both minds did that happen? Why did they quit at 8 miles?
Well, I know why it happened, but I want to hear what he has to say.
Okay, Robert, you first.
There's two things. One is the diminishing returns. You're not getting as much minerals when you get down, and the further you go down, the hotter it gets as you get closer and closer to the mantle. So the harder it is. Plus, if you think the amount of energy it takes, you have to run equipment down an 8-mile stretch. That's not usually just an 8-mile-long crankshaft. You actually have mechanized machines down there producing CO2, running an engine. That becomes very difficult, and eventually you get diminishing returns, mostly because those drill bits get heated up so much that they essentially become useless.
Okay. Daniel.
Yeah, he's right.
No.
All right, cool. Hold on, let me just go a little further. No, they gave up. It's like you said, diminishing returns, and it's like...
Did you guys just agree on something?
Yeah, absolutely did.
Holy shit! Outstanding!
Yeah, but it's like... It was the Russians, by the way. The Russians are the ones that...
Oh, you ruined it.
The Russians are the ones that dug, and they... And here's another thing. All of the space agencies, including SpaceX, which is a private corporation, and Elon Musk, they all work together. They all have the vector tongue. They're all not like in on it as like, hey, I'm a pilot, I'm an engineer, I'm a surveyor, I'm
but they would have to be.
No, see, that's the thing. It's not one giant conspiracy like probably half the room thinks it is. It's not.
No.
It's not. We're all in on it. All the pilots know it's flat. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye are fucking actors. If you don't know that, there's something wrong with you. Like they're an actor. That's not a science. Like go look at IBM. Their credentials are acting. They're actors. They're friends.
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson does have a PhD.
They get paid by heliocentrists. If you don't get paid well if you're a flat earther. If you get paid well if you're a globalist, though, like Joe Rogan. Right, Joe Rogan?
I'm assuming.
I don't know if he's here, but...
And let me just say, I don't disagree with Daniel. Neil deGrasse Tyson does get paid by people who believe in a heliocentric model of the solar system.
All right, listen.
I would like to go on to the next one, which is a little bit less on the physical reality. This is something interesting that I've noticed as I went through the flat earther communities, as I've been kind of trying to learn a little bit more about this. I'm confused about some of the other ideas that have nothing to do with the flat earth that surround the communities. Things that have to do with anti-Jewish sentiment, anti-Semite sentiment, anti-transgender sentiment, things like that. Why is that so prevalent in that community? Because you know, you've been on those message boards. It's full of that stuff. Why is that?
Because people are trying to figure out who did what, who's doing what, who's lying to who.
And they thought it was Chaz Bono? Why do they hate transgender people?
Well, it's not, what do you mean they? They hate. All globalists, all earthers love transgender people?
No, I'm asking why this particular group has a specific hatred. You know, if you go on those message boards, there is a...
Heliocentrists and globe earthers have the same exact rift. There's people that are pro-transgender, and there's people that are
sure, but you have to admit there's a huge percentage of people. You yourself have posted some semi-anti-transgender memes and stuff online, that runs strongly through that community. I'm asking this not for you to necessarily defend it. I'd like an explanation as to why those things go together.
Because there's a lot of psychology wrapped up into this whole mess, and I'd say it's like you don't want me to talk about how you believe in 9/11,
right?
But you want me to talk about Hitler and transgenders, and I think we should stick to
That's fair. I'm going to start with Daniel on this one.
Fair enough.
Keep it about the glow body.
Fair enough. Let's move on to some broad questions. How do you think of what science is and how scientific discoveries are confirmed?
Scientific method.
Okay, but the scientific method can be practiced by anyone. How does the broad range of scientists and people who follow science, how do they establish what is real and what is fake?
That's an individual thing. Like you're a globe Earth scientist, and I'm a flat Earth scientist. So,
but that's not science. Isn't an individual thing.
So you're a scientist,
right?
And I'm not a scientist.
I mean, I am not an astrophysicist, that's for sure, and I should put that out there. I have no astronomy background, just a general science one in this sense. But yes, I do publish in archaeology journals, and if I were to just say, for instance, similar to just saying the Earth is flat, if I were to just say, hey, I think this culture was around 40,000 years ago, people would question me. I would have to show C14 evidence, I would have to show tool evidence, I would have to show some kind of faunal remains, I would have to show all those things to prove it, I would have to publish in a respected journal, and then somebody else would have to review those publications and recreate my experiments.
Yeah, that's what you guys do. I know, that's good.
Okay, so how are you mimicking that with the type of research that you do?
Well, anyone and everyone in this room could test these things for yourself. That's why it's so awesome. See, all these things that I explained earlier, the outer space, you haven't seen outer space from the International Space Station, from the Hubble Space Telescope. They send us pictures and they expect us to believe it because NASA said so. I don't believe it. I'd rather be a true natural scientist and do my own independent research and collect my own data and empirical evidence, conduct experiments with myself and people around the globe, around the plane.
Slowly, Daniel. Around what?
No, around the plane. I said that on purpose.
Fair enough. So you want to do your own experiment? My question is this. You mentioned the International Space Station. Do you believe that the International Space Station exists? Because that seems to conflict with your beliefs.
Yeah, no. International Space Station is not up there, folks.
So, can you tell me what this image is?
Oh, you worked on it. He wants to know. Rob wants to know what this image is. That's an image of a U-2 spy craft. Pretending that it's an International Space Station.
Do you believe that thing can fly? Do you think that that's an aerodynamic thing that flies?
What's the International Space Station made out of? What are its three main components?
Oh, I have to say I don't know, but I imagine aluminum would be one of them.
Aluminum's pretty weak to get melted. It's actually the lowest melting point out of all the metals. Well, ISS is in the exosphere, which is beyond the thermosphere, but all the satellites, most of the satellites are in the thermosphere. The satellites are made out of aluminum, copper, gold, and titanium. And the strongest of those metals is titanium, and the highest melting point is titanium. Do you see pictures of molten, what are those called, flash iron ore, where those things are glowing orange? If the ISS is flying through space at 17,000 miles per hour, and it's made out of plastic and aluminum, well, some of those satellites have some special plastics in them. But these things, the melting point, it melts at 3,000 degrees. The thermosphere is well over 3,500 degrees. These satellites would be goop within seconds.
So wait, you're saying the ISS isn't real? I'm confused.
No, the ISS isn't real, man. It's a spy. It's a spy plane. That's what it is.
Here's the thing. You can actually go ahead, go online. You can track the International Space Station.
Yeah, just like you can track Santa.
You can track the International Space Station, and this picture...
Just like you can track Santa, folks. It's the same thing. It's imaginary.
Except, unlike Santa, this picture was taken with a consumer telescope that you can go out and buy. This is the Me 10-inch LX200. Any one of you can go purchase this, track ISS online, point it up in the sky, and see it for yourself. So if you want to do self-experimentation, go find the ISS.
And also, try to find the curvature.
Fellas, the audience has a question I have to bring up.
Okay.
Because you guys have been debating on this one thing very much. And that is, Daniel, two things that the audience has for you. Number one, what is the motivation for all these things to be false? Why would they fake all these things?
To keep everyone stupid and happy to be a slave. So everyone is happy. Let's all be slaves, and let's all be slaves together. And be if you put chickens in a pen, and then you make it a little bit bigger, or the cows, and you make the boundary that they can explore a little bit bigger, it makes those little chicken cows very happy that, oh, thank you, slave masters, globalist slave masters, that allow me to search just a little bit more outside my pen. They also, NASA's annual budget, they get $50 million a day. That's my tax dollars, and I want them back. And I want you guys to have your tax dollars back, too.
And $50 million in taxes?
Well, NASA's annual budget is $20 billion. That's a good reason. 20 billion reasons there, actually. They keep everyone stupid, and the education system promotes it, thus promotes pharmacological abuse. This is all related to drugs, meaning...
Interesting.
Don't do the plant drugs. Don't do the natural drugs. Don't do natural power plants and psychedelics and hallucinogens. Stick to the pharmaceuticals. Stick to cigarettes, caffeine, beer. Like you don't think that.
How do you know my cocaine doesn't go to any of those people?
Like this.
Well, Dan, so regarding what you just said, so there's a few things in there. One is we knew about the spherical Earth has nothing to do with NASA. We had it thousands of years before NASA.
Has everything to do with
nothing
NASA.
to do with them. But even then, you quoted a $20 billion NASA budget per year. The military budget is $600 billion with no oversight. So why would you create a convoluted spherical Earth model, supposedly thousands of years before you even exist, in order to get 1/30th of the budget that's highly supervised?
The military is NASA. What I mean by that is the Department of Defense, that's a real thing, folks, literally is NASA. So not only do they make money through the scheme that you just said, and they make money through NASA, and they make money through SpaceX, and they make money through, what else do you want? Guys, we found 10 planets last week. We need $20 billion more. We gotta find these new Earth-like planets we gotta get to, because we gotta trick you into believing aliens exist, and there's just, the government's got everything under control, folks.
To be fair, one was destroyed with the Death Star, so we're down to 9.
But Daniel, that is a burp in the military spending. Why would you have this whole thing around it? You can add $20 billion to the military budget like that. You wouldn't have to create an entire conspiracy around it.
No, that's not a conspiracy, it's a fact.
Okay.
All right, there it is.
Okay.
Now, next question that the audience has been asking. When you see people floating in space, what's going on there?
That's a nice blue green screen floating around in a pool. Floating around the pool. National Aquatic and Scuba Diver Association.
So scuba, no mask, they're just doing their thing, they're floating around.
Hashtag bubbles in space. Look that up later.
That's my new band's name, by the way, so that's copyrighted.
Bubbles in space, folks. They got bubble. I mean, come on, folks. People, they're so happy to be floating outside, and everything is. You're surrounded by death. They're wringing water in the International Space Station. What do they do? Do they perform experiments in the International Space Station?
Yeah.
Oh, they do? Oh, that's strange. What is juggling fruit an experiment and playing guitar?
Let me ask you something.
Is changing football jerseys a scientific experiment? Play the guitar? Mind control to Major Tom.
You're making a good point, but let me ask you something. How would you falsify your flat Earth hypothesis?
Falsify it?
Yeah.
How would I falsify my flat Earth? I would falsify it by getting a GoFundMe and going up to space and seeing the curvature of the Earth. That's how I would falsify the flat Earth. Unfortunately, all these tests I do, when I was living in Buffalo, and I was living next to Lake Erie, and I look across the lake, and I can see Canada's buildings 30 to 60 miles away with my own bare eyes, even though science tells me that my own bare eyes can only see 15 to 30 miles away, which is really strange. So science is telling me what my eyes can see. That's
wrong of science to do. Science should not control you that way.
Oh.
Second of all...
Alright! 1 point Daniel!
Second of all, let me ask you this. If you were proved wrong tomorrow, if we thought of an experiment and were able to prove this flat Earth wrong tomorrow, how would your life change?
Wait. If you were able to prove the flat Earth wrong?
Yes.
That's an if, though. That's why we're here.
I'm saying if. That's a hypothetical.
But I'm gonna.
How would your life change?
Well, if I suddenly become enlightened in the next hour, I will thank you personally.
But we do some experiment to falsify your hypothesis, like we talked about.
Yeah, I'm happy to that all you guys put this together. I mean, I'm literally sitting across from a Berkeley graduate. Some of my favorite people graduated from Berkeley in the whole world.
The Unabomber.
I get I get my own private lesson.
He was a Harvard guy who taught there.
Sorry.
Yeah, I get my own private.
I don't look any of this shit up.
What is it? Tutor. I'm getting tutored here, and if I get suddenly spontaneous enlightenment, or anyone else here, then I'll thank you for it.
Okay, because I was going to say, yeah, that is a good answer. That's a great answer. I was going to say I would thank you for the same thing, because that would mean I get to publish and get a Nobel Prize, which would be awesome. But I want to move on to a couple proofs, because I know people are hot, and I know it's a little uncomfortable, and people want to ask some questions, so I want to go down to a couple of different ideas. We've already talked about gravity. I want to bring up something called the Foucault pendulum. Now,
the cussing can stop, by the way.
Absolutely. So on a globe Earth, this pendulum, which you can go find in any natural history museum, in fact, with a good enough swivel, you can make this on your own at home. If you swing this pendulum going back and forth along the equator, it will keep a straight line, never moving. It can keep going for days and days and days. If you go up to the North or South Pole and you do this exact same pendulum, it will swing consistent with the rotation of the Earth, and everywhere in between, as we see in this particular picture, it will slowly move. In this case, based on the longitude and latitude of this particular one, in 31 hours it will make a complete circle around. That only works because this is spinning around. How would you explain a Foucault pendulum on a flat Earth model?
Well, if the Earth was, the Earth doesn't spin. The Earth is flat, fixed, stationary, and motionless. You can't detect any motion. Literally, no instrument can detect Earth's motion. Einstein even admitted that.
That's an instrument that's detecting Earth's motion.
Yes, and that's what I'm going to address.
Okay.
Now, have you ever heard of Gregg's pendulum?
Gregg's pendulum? No.
You know those ball sacks that hang at the end of your trucks?
Hell yeah!
So if the Earth was spinning, well, why aren't those balls wiggling around?
They have the same motion.
Now that's a joke, but that's serious at the same time, because if the Earth was spinning, those balls should be wiggling around. But I'm going to get serious here. When I went to LA, the LA Observatory, official, museum. They have a Foucault's pendulum that they have there. And when I went there, this is quite interesting. When I went there, it wasn't moving. It was completely not still. The pendulum was in the middle. And when I went to the tour guide guy, I go, yo, what's going on with the fucking pendulum here? I thought the Earth was moving. This was when I was a globehead, by the way. I was just, because I'm trying to figure out the model myself since 2007. I've been trying to figure out the heliocentric model since 2007. It's led me to this. Now I went to the LA Observatory, and I go, yo, what's going on with this pendulum? I thought this shit was supposed to be spinning nonstop. He goes, oh, yeah, see, it stops spinning after a couple of hours. It stops, we gotta give it a little push. Wait a minute. I thought the Earth is what... I thought it just spins.
No,
Why does it stop spinning every couple hours and they have to give it a little push? Oh, because the Earth is stationary and motionless and fixed.
So wait, so are all Foucault pendulums wrong? How does this work? How does this work on a flat
They all
Earth?
work the same way, dude.
How does it work on a flat Earth? Because this has not been
The Earth, those stay still, like it was.
They
when
don't.
I walked into that museum, it was still in the middle. That's how it works on a flat Earth, because it's not when it's spinning around like a merry-go-round.
You do understand that if you pass a broken down car, it doesn't mean there's no such thing as functional cars, right? Like, this works.
What are you even laughing at?
This works on a global Earth model. It doesn't work on a flat Earth. So can we know this works in
I just proved it wrong, bro. What are you talking about? I went to the museum myself. The guy goes, we gotta give it a push. You gotta give it a push. You gotta give it a push? No, the Earth is spinning it constantly. This doesn't stop.
So your answer is that all Foucault pendulums everywhere don't actually work.
Yeah, they don't work. Just like there's the Coriolis spin isn't applicable everywhere. It's different, and the tides too. You know how the tides they change. The tides are different everywhere.
Bill O'Reilly pointed that out. I would like to get into final proof, guys. I promise.
Closing argument, Bobby.
And that has to do with astronomy and our vision of it. So, us here in the northern hemisphere, we look up and see a certain amount of stars. In the southern hemisphere, they see completely different constellations. How do you explain that on a flat Earth model?
Could you say that one more time? Sorry.
We see different constellations in the northern hemisphere than they do in the southern hemisphere. We should be able to see them all, shouldn't we? Why would we see different constellations?
No, you don't see. No, that's not true at all. Come on.
You don't think you see different constellations in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere?
There's no such thing as the South Pole star.
There actually is, by the way. There is a star that's fairly fixed. It's not that bright.
It's not fixed, man.
But regardless,
it can't even be seen. The South Pole star can't even be seen. Sigma Octanus.
Forget the South Pole star. I'm talking about constellations.
What do you mean? The South Pole star is supposedly supposed to be right here.
Why do we have different constellations?
That's a huge thing.
Why do we have different constellations in the north and the south?
There's not. It's not.
Yes, there is. Go and look outside, and then go to South America and look outside. They're different constellations. You don't have the Big Dipper and Little Dipper in South America. Well, you don't have Polaris in South America.
It depends on where you're standing. It depends on where your location. So that your location that will depict your perspective on your field of vision that you can see. You can't see the whole sky from one point on the Earth. The sky is way.
But we see completely different constellations in the southern hemisphere. They're nothing like what's going on in the northern.
Until you can, you're just saying it.
Okay.
Until you can prove it, that doesn't.
So let me ask you: when we look up in the night sky and we do a time lapse of the northern hemisphere, we see something that looks like this.
Yep. Yes, we do.
That middle right there, that's Polaris, and that's everything spinning around it. Now, in a globe Earth model, the south would have the same thing going on the other way, counterclockwise, whereby in a flat Earth model, you couldn't have anything replicating that. What you would see is stars passing you by like an old-timey animation machine. But in fact, we see the exact same thing except counter-rotated, which would be physically impossible to see on a flat Earth.
I thought that we couldn't find the South Pole isn't fixed, but now it is. So now the stars are
geographic south, yes.
Now the stars. 1 minute ago, the South Pole wasn't fixed.
We never said that.
And now the South Pole is fixed.
So how do you
can't
this,
find the South Pole because it doesn't.
You can't find the South Pole?
Because it doesn't exist. You can't. Good luck finding the North Pole too. There's only one pole. There's one pole.
Daniel, how do you explain this image? How do you explain
the North Pole?
So you're saying this wasn't actually taken from the South Pole?
No, not at all.
So you don't.
Go back to the North Pole one.
Okay.
So this is the North Pole. So like I said earlier about all these different changing directions, how we're spinning and twirling and rotating and revolving and wobbling. And this is the picture we get. This is concentric circles.
Yes.
Concentric circles. That is impossible. How could you have concentric circles going around the North Pole, Polaris, when you have all these different motions simultaneously in the heliocentric model? That would mean this picture would look like this. It would look like all these fucking. You can't have perfect. all those different wobbly, different motions, and you have no stellar parallax. You have no. It wouldn't turn it. The only way that this can happen is on a flat Earth because the stars and the luminaries are rotating over and around the flat plane.
Daniel,
that's why it looks like that.
Daniel, you haven't answered the question.
Yes, I did.
How do you get this image?
I just did answer the question.
How do you get this
Daniel,
image?
you didn't answer the question.
How do you get
I just did.
Then answer again. How do you get this image in the southern hemisphere? How do you get this image in the southern hemisphere? This is taken from Argentina. Explain this from your point of view. It's not what you would see.
Go to the South Pole one now.
This is the South Pole, actually. It's almost indistinguishable because of this.
Well, that's weird. That's strange. So the South Pole.
This is taken from Argentina.
We can't find it. It's not fixed.
This is from Argentina, not the South Pole, Daniel.
Is the North Pole going to switch to a new?
The magnetic north will. That has nothing to do with it.
So, it has nothing to do with it.
No, please answer the question.
Oh man,
looking
that's
south.
so funny.
How do you see this looking in the southern hemisphere up in the sky?
You don't.
So that's not a real picture from the southern hemisphere.
Dude, I don't trust pictures. Okay.
Okay, so go to the southern hemisphere. So all you have to do is go to the southern hemisphere and see this, and it would disprove your idea, right? If you saw this in the southern hemisphere, it would disprove your idea.
I don't see why it would. Why
because you, instead of seeing a single thing like you would see in the northern hemisphere, if you look south, like this is taken from the southern hemisphere, you should see a kaleidoscope picture like a series of animations. Like, in this model, if you could imagine looking as it went through this, you'd be looking out this way. You'd be seeing these individual stars. There's no way to get this effect looking south in the southern hemisphere.
It's not like that. It's not spinning the whole Earth. It's spinning this.
Right. So how does it show a single point down here revolving around, Daniel? You're looking south. You should see a kaleidoscope moving around this way.
I don't know how to answer that question, man.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that as the next one.
I mean, I already did, but whatever.
Daniel, one more question for you to Bobby, and then we're going to open up to the audience. One more deal.
I gotta ask him a question.
Yeah.
All right. See, isn't that interesting? How I am the one getting all the questions asked to him, and I.
If you prefer, I could ask you for Bobby.
And that's a big. We have to pay attention to this. That I am just, I graduated high school here. I'm talking with a
kudos, by the way. Bobby,
I don't need to ask questions to globalists because
I was doing that as a courtesy. I want
to ask.
Oh, okay, you want to now.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I respect him. I respect Robert.
Okay.
Let's see here. What question do I have? So have you ever seen the curvature of the Earth? Oh, he has. That's a big one.
In pictures, yeah.
Oh, okay, in pictures. So you've never seen the curvature of the Earth with your eyes?
No, nor would I expect to unless I went over 40,000 feet.
There we go. Whoa.
Unless you're talking about watching a ship go over the horizon or the sunset, in which case, yes, I've observed the curvature directly, like we all have.
That's huge. No one's ever seen the curvature of the Earth. I challenge everyone in this room to go to the ocean tomorrow and find the curvature of the Earth.
Wait! I have been in the cheap seats at the Padres Stadium. I saw the fucking curvature.
Let me ask you a few questions, Daniel. We should do this, and by the way, I'll do this with you if you'd like, as an experiment.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you think?
Let's do a true experiment.
Absolutely. What do you think happens at sunset? When we see the sun disappear halfway down, how is that sun disappearing halfway down?
It's moving out of your eyesight.
I've never seen anything move out of my eyesight by half of it suddenly disappearing.
Well,
it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it goes away. It doesn't stay huge and then disappear.
Yeah, well, there's a vanishing point. We're not Supermen. We can't see forever.
Speak for yourself.
So since we don't have superpowers and we can't see forever with our own eyes, we have to use like cameras and telescopes and binoculars. And when those boats go over the curvature, you
forget boats. Go sun. Keep sun.
The sun is converging, melting into the horizon because we can't see based on our perspective. We can't see past the vanishing point of the horizon.
So you're saying it's distance?
We can't see past the horizon. So the sun is moving away, so it disappears. It looks like it's setting. It looks like it's setting.
What is stopping us from seeing so far?
Our vision.
showed up or something.
Okay, so our vision is not good enough to see far enough away. That's what you're saying.
That's why we have to invent telescopes.
Okay, so let's do this experiment. You and I will do this. And this will prove whether or not that sun is setting the way I think it is, or going out of our visual scope the way you think it is. You and I will go down tomorrow to Sunset Cliffs, and we will lie down on the beach right before sunset.
Oh, that sounds romantic as fuck.
We will do it from an elevated position so there are no waves in the way. As we are lying down on this beach, we will watch the sun set below the horizon. We will then stand up and immediately be able to see the sun again. Now, if your idea was true and it was too far away, that wouldn't make sense.
I've heard that one. That's funny. That's funny, man. No, let's do that.
Okay, but would you agree that that wouldn't make sense on your model? Because we're at the same distance away from the sun, how would we see it all of a sudden?
Let's do that tomorrow, please.
Okay, that will be the experiment that proves the roundness or flatness of the Earth.
Now, thank you. You know what? Let's call it a night! Robert Timothy, everybody!
Time passing by. That time passing by. Motherfucking time is passing by.
Are you familiar
It's okay.
with the definition
It's okay.
of scientific theory?
Scientific theory.
Scientific theory.
What is
Are
it?
you familiar with the definition?
No, because they don't know what it is.
Of course we do.
It is a body
It's
of fact.
a fact. Yes, I know exactly you're going to say
There you
that.
go. It's a body of
Theories
fact.
are facts in their model, guys. Theories are facts.
Theories are a series of facts. They're actually more supported.
He just asked me, do I know what a scientific theory is? I knew he was going to say facts, and now theory is facts.
And yet I'm not done talking.
I don't give a fuck.
There you go.
We're
That's
back and
the
forth
problem,
here.
is we keep saying
You don't have
you're wrong.
anything. I just proved you wrong.
You have not proven anything
You said,
wrong.
do you know what a scientific theory is?
Okay.
You thought it was a fact.
Here is.
A theory is a fact, according to you. Good lord,
Theory is a
fucker.
collection of
Good
facts.
fucking lord. A theory is a fact. A theory is a fact in the heliocentric model. Holy shit.
Since you don't want to hear the remainder of the question.
You didn't have any questions. You said, well, how does it's all related to conspiracies. You don't have any questions. You're just
okay.
You're a globalist hater.
All right, then are you familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect? I would look that up because that's very important to your mental state.
Is that some sort of
I would just look it up. We're in 2017. You can look shit up, right?
Is that
Look it up.
For those of you guys who are out there
is that
wondering
the
about the
office? Is that an office reference?
DUNNING
Is that an office reference?
For those of you who are curious,
Is that an office reference?
For those of you who are curious,
Okay.
the Dunning-Kruger effect is what happens when an amateur doesn't know a lot about a specific topic and they overestimate what they know about it until they start actually learning. For instance, learning the equation for weight, which would be mass times gravity. When they start learning those basic forms, then they realize how little they actually know. And it's one of the
That's
reasons
weird.
that you walk into a
I'm doing
museum
a really good job here.
thinking you're
Even
so
the globalists
smart.
know that.
You learn a bunch of stuff.
You know that, Robert.
And you
Come on.
walk
What are you
out,
saying?
and you walk out feeling dumber than when you walked in.
That's weird because I feel really intelligent right now.
I think he's being a little too clinical. Basically, I'll paraphrase.
Luckily, other people can't dictate how I feel.
Basically, I'll paraphrase. In other words,
What is your question?
inept people don't
Do you
know
have
just how inept
Do you have
they
a
are.
fucking question? Why are you up here?
I asked you a question and you couldn't
didn't-
tell
what's
me.
your question?
You couldn't tell me how your model explains anything without scientific ignorance.
That's all there is. That the flat Earth model is complete scientific. That's all it is empirical evidence. That's all we have.
I'd like to remind you.
You cannot prove the
You
global
guys, you
model.
guys calm down. Calm down. Break it up.
right.
Break it up. No
Obviously,
funny.
this is going nowhere.
Yeah, you've done a really good job.
You guys, there's no need for animosity here. If you remember, we're going to solve this tomorrow with our sunset experiment one way or the other. So
They're gonna hold hands, have a Mai Tai,